Part 38. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 371. Chapter 371 Sudden Changes. Seeing that Mrs. Kui was a little anxious, Zhang Ning nodded slightly and said with a smile, "If Mrs. Ming is in a hurry, I can have someone prepare some and send them to Tongchang Mansion." "Thank you, Lord Marquis." Mrs. Kui was so grateful that she stood up and thanked her repeatedly. Zhou Mian was about to leave after listening for a while. Her eyes swept over the people Kui brought with her. She felt weird seeing all these servants with their heads lowered. It happened that her brother couldn't stand still and was clamoring to go playing. She could only put aside her doubts. After a while, gongs and drums were beating loudly and firecrackers were blasting outside the villa. Everyone in the hall stopped and looked out the door. "Here we come." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a man dressed in red striding through the door. Perhaps people are in high spirits during happy events. Today, Liang Xiaoqian looks a bit more handsome than before. He stepped forward and bowed to Zhang Ning. "Mother-in-law, Xiaoxu is here to pick up the bride." "Go," Zhang Ning chuckled and asked Aunt Yu to lead him. As soon as Liang Xiaoqian walked to the backyard, he was stopped by the Yang brothers who were guarding the door. They didn't say anything, they just put their hands behind their hands and blocked the door tightly. Yang Legui stretched out his hand mischievously. "I opened this door and planted these flowers. If you want to pick the flowers and wear them, I'll give you the reward." The Li family members who came to watch the excitement were made to laugh. "Hey, Grandma's little sweetheart, you have to protect your second sister." Mrs. Li was watching the fun and didn't think it was a big deal. Liang Xiaoqian smiled brightly and grabbed several purses from the hands of the boys behind him and stuffed them into the hands of Yang Legui and others one by one. Yang Legui opened his wallet on the spot, full of surprises, and immediately turned sideways to let Liang Xiaoqian pass. Yang Fugui yelled, "Li Gui! You are so greedy for money. I bribed you with just such a small amount of money." Yang Legui retorted, "2 taels of silver is nothing. It's enough to give me sugar for several years." All the adults were stunned for a moment, and then they all burst into laughter and burst into tears. Mr. Zhou raised her head helplessly. "This child. Is his second cousin worth only 2 taels of silver?" It's okay if Mrs. Zhou didn't say anything, but when she did, everyone couldn't help but laugh. Liang Xiaoqian came all the way to the outside of Yang Erden's boudoir and was stopped again. Grandma Wang came forward holding an exquisite tray and said respectfully, "My second young lady said that if my uncle wants to take away our eldest daughter, he must show some real skills. My uncle should be able to play piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting." Liang Xiaoqian nodded confidently, "Of course." Wang Sun's mouth raised a bad smile. "Come, go on a prop too." A group of maids began to form a formation in the yard, and the people Liang Xiaoqian brought over were dumbfounded. "What are you doing?" Grandma Wang raised her head proudly and said, "My uncle, lower your head and spin 20 times, get up and throw sandbags into the wooden basket. Only 7 out of 10 will pass." Everyone was dumbfounded. What does this have to do with chess, calligraphy, and painting? "It doesn't matter, it's just fun." A woman's playful voice came from inside the room. All the men were speechless and looked at Liang Xiaoqian with sympathy. The Liang family member next to him gritted his teeth and stepped forward. "Brother, let me try it for you first." This game does not require talent, but he still has some confidence. Unexpectedly, he couldn't find the direction after 20 laps without making a turn. He staggered and sat on the ground, causing everyone to laugh. The second one came, and I turned around 20 times, but I was a little dizzy, and I barely made 2 shots. Everyone gradually stopped laughing. Grandma Wang raised her eyebrows and asked, "Master, is it about to start?" Liang Xiaoqian took a deep breath and said, "Okay. Anyway, if he can't get through, he will grab it." Of course, he couldn't pass the test. He was still dizzy and shouted, "Brothers, rush for me." A group of people started banging on the door. Grandma Wang was shocked and said, "Wait, wait, wait. We have something to discuss." Everyone stopped immediately. Grandma Wang coughed twice, stretched out her hand, her eyes drifting to the sky. Liang Xiaoqian understood immediately and directly gave him a big purse. Grandma Wang shouted, "Open the door." Liang Xiaoqian hurriedly got up from the ground, patted the ashes on his body, and rushed in, "Madam, I'm here." There was another burst of laughter in the room. Yang Arya blushed with embarrassment, and under the guidance of the matchmaker, she got on Yang Erden's back and let him carry her out of the house. Liang Xiaoqian was overjoyed and smiled like an idiot. The newlyweds went to the front hall to salute Zhang Ning sent his blessing and red envelope, and watched them leave the house, his eyes burning a little. Before the bride even got on the sedan, Butler Zhu suddenly ran in with a panicked expression and whispered a few words in Zhang Ning's ear. Zhang Ning's expression changed and he said, "Let's go and take a look." Just as Sun Yan was about to follow her, Zhang Ning shook his head at her, "Help my mother entertain the guests, don't leave." Sun Yan was a little worried, but nodded obediently. The group came to the mountain behind Zhuangzi. Yang Dia was tied to a bamboo, surrounded by firewood. Bai Laokai held a torch in one hand and a dagger in the other and pressed it against Yang Dia's neck. When Zhang Ning brought someone over but Yang Arya was not there, his whole face they all sank, "Where's Yang Arya, that flirtatious bitch? Let her come to see me. Otherwise, I'll kill Yang Dia." Zhang Ning stopped the guard who was about to step forward and looked at him coldly, "Bai Laokai, you should have been sent to the east of the city by magistrates yet to build the city wall. You were originally imprisoned for attempted murder, but now you still don't know how to repent. Fart. It was you who framed me. You were the ones who forced me to do it. Now all my family property is gone, my son is gone, and I am dead. Even if I die, I will bring a few more people to be buried with me. Yang Do had promised Yang Arya to betroth to my son before. Now that my son has died, she has to accompany him. If she doesn't die, I can only kill her eldest sister and let Yang Dia atone for her sins, ha ha ha." Bai Laokai smiled wildly. When he was serving his sentence in the east of the city, he had already heard about Guang Yinho's adoption of Yang Arya, and also knew that Yang Arya was about to marry into an official family. Thinking of his poor son, the hatred in his heart became deeper and deeper. As Yang Arya's wedding was approaching, his desire for revenge became stronger and stronger, so he took advantage of the opportunity to escape yesterday during the Mid-Autumn Festival when the official duties were slack. Now there is only one ending waiting for him, death anyway, and he has no worries. Li was so frightened by the scene before her that she rolled her eyes and fainted. Old man Yang was even more anxious and confused. Zhang Ning secretly gave Butler Zhu a few words, took 2 steps forward, and asked coldly, "Who helped you tie up Da Yat?" "Let Yang Arya come over." Bai Laokai was very excited and didn't want to answer Zhang Ning's question at all. Yang Erden looked around and said, "Mother, Bai Yuniang is not here." Zhang Ning suppressed his anger and said, "Go and find Yang Do. He will solve the trouble he caused himself." In addition, he ordered Zhuangzi to search Bai Yuniang from top to bottom. He wanted to see her alive and dead, and her corpse. "Notify the prefect to break Bai Laokai out of prison, inform him. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over." Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 372. Chapter 372 Redemption. Yang Erden nodded and looked at Bai Laokai, "Don't be impulsive. I'll go find Arya right now. Don't play tricks, or I'll kill her with one knife." Bai Laokai's eyes were as wide as a bullseye, with blue veins popping out. He was obviously on the verge of going berserk. Yang Erden did not dare to delay, so he quickly returned to the big house and called Yang Lao over, who was eating and stuffing. Yang Lao looked confused and came to Yang Erden limping. "Erden, what's going on?" Yang Erden was so angry. Yeah, was by Lao Chi. They were in the bamboo forest in the back mountain. "Where is Bai Uniang?" Yang Lao's face turned pale with fright, and his voice was trembling as he spoke. "I don't know. That woman has disappeared since she first entered the village, and I don't know where she went." "Damn it!" Yang Erden stamped his feet and hurriedly asked someone to search. Yang Lao was at a loss and could only follow him step by step, wandering around like a headless fly. One person watched everything silently and followed quietly. Yang Erden first went to Ji Wei and told him the situation. Ji Wei was so angry that he was not even in the mood to have a wedding banquet, so he hurried to deal with it. Zhu San led the people to Yang Erden and reported solemnly, "Second young master, the younger one has ordered people to search, and Bai Uniang is not in the big house." Yang Erden nodded slightly. "Search other places, it's unlikely here." Today, Anyang ordered servants to be guarded in all the courtyards and rooms of the mansion. Guests were not allowed to come in and out at will, let alone people like Bai Uniang, who would definitely not be able to get in, otherwise they would not settle for the second best. Take action against Yang Dia. Bai Uniang hasn't been found yet, but Bai Laokai can't wait any longer. Fortunately, Yang Erden brought Yang Do here. Yang Do saw Yang Dia tied to the bamboo and was so anxious that he broke out in cold sweat. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Bai Laokai, let my Dia go." "Yang Do, you have to die." Bai Laokai gritted his teeth fiercely, looking at Yang Lao with eyes that seemed to have been tempered with poison. "I haven't gone to you to settle the score yet, but you came to the door yourself. Today I won't. Killing your whole family will not satisfy the hatred in my heart." "Bai Laokai, I'm here, why don't you hurry up and capture me?" Ji Wei shouted loudly and led a group of government officials into the bamboo forest. Bai Laokai immediately tied 2 more ropes to Yang Dia. Now Yang Dia was like a rice dumpling. Not only was she with 5 flowers, but she was also surrounded by flammable hay. As long as the torch in Bai Laokai's hand was thrown down, here it burned to ashes in an instant, and it was too late for everyone to save Yang Dia. "Don't move. If anyone dares to move again, I will kill her, kill her." Yang Dia burst into tears. Seeing everyone stop, Bai Laokai smiled very proudly. "Yang Do, it's time to pay back what you owe me. Let me think about it. My son was bitten and maimed by your dogs and died. He died so miserably. You have to taste what he suffered. Prick yourself now. Otherwise, I will have to stab your daughter." Everyone looked at Yang Lao. Yang Lao knelt down to Ji Wei pleadingly, "Sir, he is a madman, please save Dia, she is innocent. Stop talking nonsense." "Hurry." Bai Laokai went crazy, raising the knife high. "Brother, no," Bai Uniang screamed and was pushed down the mountain. She staggered and fell to the ground. Bai Laokai was so angry that he yelled, "It's useless. If you escape, you will be caught. You deserve to suffer for the rest of your life." Bai Uniang was looking at her, and her expression suddenly changed. "Brother, be careful." Before Bai Lao Chi could react, a woman with a scarred face as ugly as an evil ghost suddenly rushed out from behind him. Bai Laokai was so angry that he stabbed the woman several times with his dagger, but she still didn't let go. The officer took the opportunity to rush forward and control Bai Laokai, shouting, "Quick! Find the doctor! Find the doctor!" Yang Dia, who was surviving the disaster, was completely confused and could do nothing but cry. Zhang Ning hurriedly asked Huaji and others to help her out, and asked someone to immediately go to the east of the city to notify Fang Muxi, who was still working in the brick kiln. Yang Do was more active now. He rushed over and wanted to beat Bai Laokai, but found that he couldn't get close at all, so he had to run over to greet Yang Dia. Ji Wei came to Zhang Ning's side with a solemn expression. Master Marquis, is that woman from your village? She is dying. Yang Arya came back to her senses and looked for her savior subconsciously. She ignored Yang Lao and struggled to get up and walk towards the woman lying on the ground. When she took a closer look at the pale woman on the ground, she suddenly burst into tears. Anayang! Anayang! Zhang Ning was also startled. He leaned over and exclaimed, Qian! Why are you here? Qian was stabbed several times and was bleeding. She weakly held on to keep her eyes from closing. She raised her lips at Zhang Ning and said feebly, Sister-in-law, long time no see. I'm here to see Arya get married. As she spoke, her guilty eyes fell on Yang Dia, who was crying in tears, and she murmured, I always remember what you said when you accused me that day. I hated you at first, but later I figured it out. I don't a good person, but not a good mother. I owe you for saving you today. Live a good life. Don't imitate me. Cough cough cough. Stop talking, stop talking. Doctor, Dr. Yang Dia collapsed. Zhang Ning urged, go and see if the doctor is here. Qian shook her head and looked at Zhang Ning. I have always hated you, and I still hate you now, but I still want to thank you for helping me take care of my 3 children. Also, be careful of Zhao Li. After all, Qian died before the doctor came over, and Yang Dia fainted from crying. When she woke up again, there were many people around her bed. Li moved over worriedly, her eyes still red. Wake up. My child, you are finally awake. Would you like something to eat? I'll make it for you. What would you like to eat? Fang Muxi looked at her carefully. Old man Yang held his 2 great-grandsons and secretly wiped away tears. Ms. Zhou had already poured a glass of water and said very gently, come on, get up and moisten your mouth first before talking. Fang Muxi hurriedly helped Yang Dia up and fed her water himself. Yang Dia asked in a hoarse voice, how is my mother-in-law? Everybody looked sad. Fang Muxi said in a muffled voice, my eldest uncle has collected the body for my mother-in-law. It has been temporarily parked in Yizhuang. Fugui and third uncle are watching over there. When you wake up, we will go over and see how to deal with it. We didn't let Arya know. Yang Dia nodded, tears fell, and cried bitterly before saying, Arya has been adopted by the eldest uncle, not counting our second wife. Today is her happy day, and it is not good to let her know. I will deal with it with Fugui, that's it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fensti. Chapter 373. Chapter 373 Visiting Mr. Kui. Everyone felt sad when they heard this. Fang Muxi thought for a while, then gritted his teeth and said, there is also the matter of my father-in-law. After you fell into coma, Fugui and your father-in-law had a big quarrel, and the quarrel was particularly fierce. Yang Dia's expression was calm, and she was very calm when she mentioned Yang Lao. Looking at her like this, it was obvious that she was cold-hearted towards Yang Lao. Mrs. Li wiped away tears in pain. Yeah, it's all Grandma's fault. Grandma didn't teach your grandpa well. From now on, you don't have to worry about his affairs. Just take good care of Mu11 and the child. Grandma and your grandpa, after some discussion, we will buy another piece of land for you to build a small yard next to Arya's dowry yard, so that your family can have a shelter from the wind and rain in the future. Originally, the couple did not mean this, but after what happened today, the 2 of them were extremely disappointed with Yang Lao. They felt that all the efforts their eldest granddaughter had made over the years had been fed to the dog, and they felt guilty, so they secretly talked to Zhang Ning and Yang Lao. Zhou Zhaoxi discussed to buy a land and build a house for Yang Dia as compensation. After all, the old couple had not saved much money over the years, and they had already spent a lot of money on subsidies. What they still have now are the filial piety of Zhongning and Dafang's grandsons, and they use their filial money to subsidize Yang. Yeah, I definitely have to discuss it with everyone. Yang Dia shook her head and refused. Grandma, you don't have to worry about me, we have hands and feet, we can earn it ourselves. Ms. Li shook her head and said, I have already made an agreement with your aunt. She has already told her to leave. It's too late to refuse. Get up, have something to eat, and go see your mother off on her last journey. Qian's funeral was very simple. Only Yang Dia's family, Yang Fugui, Yang Lao-san, Zhou, and Grandma Yu who were sent by Zhongning attended. Mr. Feng Shui chose a hilltop with good feng shui to bury Mr. Qian, and that was the end of the matter. Mammy Yu returned to the big house, first passed the brazier, then took a shower and changed clothes before going to see Zhongning. Sun Yan saw her come back and asked, Is everything done? Mammy Yu nodded. Young Master Fugui said he didn't want to make any publicity, so the funeral was held in a very low-key manner, but everything that should be there was present, so he did his best. Even though the old slave didn't shed many tears when he looked at the rich young master, Mr. Ya cried very sadly. When I came back, the old slave heard the old lady say that she wanted to go back tomorrow, and she was packing her luggage now. So soon, Sun Yan looked at Zhongning. Auntie, are they leaving in such a hurry because of the second wife? Zhongning nodded. In all likelihood, if something like this happened on Arya's happy day, Erden, his grandpa and grandma will probably not come to Fukan again in the future. Every time someone with a second wife is around, something goes wrong, and the older couple always has to deal with the aftermath, which makes the old couple feel embarrassed. Aren't you going to leave until the results of Bai Laokai and Bai Yuniang's treatment come out? Sun Yan asked. Zhongning thought for a while, stood up and said, I'm going to go to the government office. In the government office dungeon, Zhongning was led by Ji Wei to the place where Bai Yuniang and Bai Laokai were imprisoned. It seemed difficult to even breathe in the dark and cramped dungeon. She instinctively frowned and covered her nose with her hands. Ji Wei stopped in front of a cell. Master Marquis, Bai Yuniang is locked up here. Now all the criminals in the dungeon are taken to the east of the city to build the city wall during the day, so the two of them are now locked up here. Bai Yuniang heard this. The voice desperately begged for mercy. Master Ho, I know I was wrong, I know I was wrong. I don't dare to do it anymore, please spare me, spare me. Zhongning squatted down and looked at her coldly. You are so brave. You dare to cause trouble during a wedding in my house? How do you think I should punish you? Bai Yuniang was so frightened that she shivered, tears and snot dripping down her nose. Master Ho, this was not my intention, it was my eldest brother, him. I only found out that he had sneaked in when I arrived at the villa today. He threatened me in the dark. I was very scared, so I made excuses to find him. I wanted to ask him why he came in, but he asked me to help him get revenge. He also said that he had stolen some gold and silver and could give it to me, so that I could escape far away and just board a fishing boat in the east harbor of the city. If I follow the fishing boat and leave, I can find an excuse to get away and start over again. I'm excited. Originally, he wanted me to get Arya out, but the big house was full of people and it was impossible to do it. He scolded me, then settled for Dia as the next best option. I thought that Dia was from the second wife, so she had nothing to do with the Marquis anyway, so you took action on my territory. Zhongning looked at her with a look of death. Qian is dead and you have become an accomplice, why not go and be buried with her? Zhongning stood up and left without talking to her anymore. Behind him, Bai Yuniang was crying and begging for mercy. Ji Wei asked, Master Ho, are you going to see Bai Laokai? Zhongning shook his head, that kind of desperado is not worth my time. It's just that death is too easy for him. I think Fang Tingshen's tricks against Kayazu were pretty good. I can let Bai Laokai play with them when he is most frightened and afraid it's time to send him to hell. Ji Wei knew when he heard that Zhang Ning was furious, and nodded immediately. Bai Laokai's escape from prison is a capital crime. It doesn't matter how he is killed. The lower officials will definitely comply. Zhang Ning nodded with satisfaction. Since he came to the government office, he naturally wanted to meet Mrs. Kui, the third wife of Ming Dynasty, who was temporarily living here. The business we talked about today is just the beginning but not the end. After all, she is the daughter-in-law of the Lord of Shunda Township, so she still needs to be treated well. When Mrs. Lan and Mrs. Kui heard that Zhang Ning was coming, they were both a little surprised and hurried out to greet him in person. The Marquis is having a great joy in his residence today. Why do you come all the way? Mrs. Lan was very puzzled. It wasn't that she didn't see her master leaving the table in a hurry just now at Dongli Villa. She was just accompanying Ms. Kui and had no chance to send anyone over to inquire. As a result, her master never came back. Even Guang Inho they also disappeared together. It was the second young lady of the Yang family who sent the guests away. She just thought that something terrible happened in Fukan. Anyway, she couldn't get involved, so she didn't bother to worry about it. Unexpectedly, Zhang Ning came to the door. Could there be some hidden secret here? Zhang Ning smiled and did not tell those bad things. He just looked at Ms. Kui and said, I came here to see Mr. Ji for some business. It happened that Mrs. Ming-san talked about business, so I stopped by. Her eyes fell on Mrs. Kui and asked slowly, the third lady met my son when she was in Tongchang Mansion. Is he okay? It turned out to be to inquire about the child. A flash of understanding flashed in the eyes of Kui and Lan, and they said, the third young master is very good. He brought a lot of people and a lot of goods. Tongchang Mansion is different from Kuzhu Mansion. Although the two mansions are next to each other, Kuzhu Mansion is mountainous. Tongchang Prefecture is more of plains, rivers, and lakes, where we are rich in aquatic products and seafood. The third young master said that he had brought a lot of rice paper, fine wine, and seafood, and planned to go all the way to the northwest, selling Yang's rice paper and fine wine along the way, and then buying local specialties. In Tongchang Prefecture, he bought a lot of seafood and aquatic products. I don't know, but he conservatively estimated that he earned 7,000 to 8,000 taels during his stay in Tongchang Mansion. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 374. Chapter 374 Qian's experiences over the years. Lan covered her mouth in shock. So much, how can a businessman make so much money? Mrs. Mingson nodded reservedly and said with a smile, but MRSG can't just take it at face value. Doing business is risky, and the probability of encountering natural and man-made disasters on the road is also high. As she spoke, she paused, looked at Zhang Ning, and bowed respectfully. To say the least, I have to thank Lord Marquis. Since the popularization of white potato and fragrant taro, most people in Qi have been freed from hunger, their livelihoods are stable, and the world is at peace. It is much safer to do business now than it was a few years ago. At least there are a lot less bandits. Our third house is originally engaged in business. In the past, every year when we went out to do business, some guards would die. Sometimes there were dozens of people, and sometimes there were more than a dozen. Last year, there were only 2 people. These 2 people did not get into trouble due to natural or man-made disasters, but died of illness. If the guard dies, each family will have to give at least 20 to 30 taels of silver as a pension. From now on, they will have to send some condolences during the New Year and holidays. These costs will cost several thousand or even tens of thousands of taels a year. At this time, MRSG still feels that 7,000 or 8,000 taels of silver are needed. Is it much? Lan Shi was speechless after hearing this, and her envy became much lighter. Zhang Ning smiled at the side. She knew that what Mrs. Mingson said was only part of the truth, and she had no intention of adding anything to it. Now she was looking forward to it, not knowing how much Yang Santi would gain from this trip back. The three of them went to the flower hall and served tea. Mrs. Ming-san took a sip and continued, "Master Marquis, to be honest, I really like your drinking concubine, and I also want to do a long-term business with you, but at this price." At first she purchased it directly from Yang Santi's caravan. When she arrived in Kuzhou Prefecture, she inquired and found that the price Yang Santi sold her was no cheaper than selling it in pieces. Zhang Ning said with a normal expression, "I understand what the third lady means. In business, we still act according to the rules. If the third lady feels that the previous price is too high, we can reduce it, but the third lady will have to send someone to pick up the goods. After all, it costs a lot to transport it all the way." After listening to a few words, Mrs. Lan lost interest and began to yawn, so she excused herself and left in advance. Mrs. Mingson laughed and shook her head. "Mrs. is such a wonderful person. She likes to make money but also doesn't like to make money. A pun." Zhang Ning also laughed, and while Mrs. Lan was leaving, she quickly set a price with Mrs. Kui, and took the opportunity to ask, "Third Madam, I would like to ask, do you think of the disfigured old lady that Madam brought to Dongli Villa today, still remember? She has already asked Ji Wei. If the Qian family was not brought there by the Lan family, then it could only be the Kui family." She had many doubts about the Qian family. She knew about the Qian family's disappearance from Zhao's maternal home, and was sure that the Zhao family did not dare to do anything to the Qian family. However, she did not expect that the Qian family would show up again with a disfigured face, and that she would be killed before she died. She was careful about Zhao Li, who was Zhao Yuanwei. They have not met each other for a long time, so how can we start talking about this? Ms. Kui's eyes widened suddenly and she nodded vigorously. "Have you seen her, Lord Marquis? When I left the villa today, I found that Mrs. was missing. I asked the people below and they all said they hadn't seen her. I was wondering where she was. Something happened and she died." Zhang Ning thought for a while and then told Ms. Kui the truth. After being briefly shocked, Ms. Kui's eyes were filled with sadness, and she said slowly, "I just told Mrs. that businessmen are prone to accidents, which is not an exaggeration. Last year, I went to Yun's mansion, and it happened to be the same time as Yun's mansion. The officialdom was shaken, and this incident affected many local forces, so Yun's mansion was in chaos during that time. As a woman in a place like that, it was very easy for me to be targeted. When I was in the inn, I was followed by a group of local snakes. When the team reached the bamboo forest, they took action. The guards escorted me to escape, but I got lost in the bamboo forest. Fortunately, I met Mrs. At that time, she was digging bamboo shoots in the bamboo forest. She saw me being chased by gangsters and helped me. As a result, she fell down the ravine and was scratched on the face by the sharp stalagmite point. Afterwards, I helped her seek medical advice, but some of the wounds were too serious. Deep, it is destined to leave scars. I felt very guilty, but she didn't take it seriously. She looked like she had no hope for life. Later I learned that she was living alone in a dilapidated thatched hut, so I took her to my house and kept her by my side. She's a rough lady, but I didn't ask her to sign a deed of sale. She's not a slave. Last month, I took people to Lefang to check the accounts. Mrs. was also there at the time. She kept looking at the third young master, and that's when I noticed the third young master's caravan, and then tasted the little old man and Yukiang Jiang. With these two wines, Lefang's business has improved a lot. I once joked that Mrs. was the lucky star given to me by God. I never thought that good people would not live long. Kui said, gently wiping away the tears from the corners of her eyes. The first time Zhang Ning heard someone say that Jian was a good person, it was still a little strange, but more of a disappointment. Since she already knew about Jian's past, she didn't stay long, talked for a while, and waited for Lan to come over before bidding her farewell. Early the next morning, according to the requirements of Old Man Yang and Mrs. Li, Zhang Ning had someone prepare a carriage to send them back early. Yang Lao was procrastinating at this time and didn't want to leave at all. Yang Lao-san was getting a little impatient. Second brother, what are you waiting for? If you don't leave, you will have to sleep in the wilderness tonight. Yang Lao's face was a little ugly, his eyes rolled back and forth several times, and he didn't have the confidence to say, I don't want to, I'd better stay. What? What did you say? Yang Lao-san was surprised. Second brother. Stop talking nonsense. Where are you staying? What are you doing here? Yang Lao looked at the house behind him, his meaning was self-evident. Joe laughed angrily. Second uncle, this is Aria's dowry now. She is now the girl of the first house. Your second house and the first house have long been divorced. In what capacity do you live in the first house? The dowry of the married girl in the yard? Don't embarrass the child. Yang Lao was a little embarrassed and said hurriedly, I don't want to live here. I want to find wealth and live with my son. Joe refuted it directly, come on. Fugui now lives in the brick kiln in the east of the city, which is also Dafang's territory. He works for Dafang, and it is only natural that Dafang takes care of his food and housing. Whoever hires a worker will also help raise the worker. Damn it! Don't look for trouble. There's more. It's not that I, the younger brother and sister, want to talk about you. Fugui is still a half-grown child, and it's already remarkable that he can support himself. You are not a 70-year-old who can't walk and you have to have your children by your side. Don't cause any more trouble for your children. Being rich is hard enough. Jian's death had a great impact on Zhou. Although she had always disliked Jian and even hated her, seeing Jian risking her life to save Dia yesterday made her view of Jian change a lot. On the other hand, Yang, the second child, Yang Dia cared deeply for him, and even chose Fang Muxi, who was old enough to be her father, to marry him. As a result, she was in danger, and Yang Lao didn't even dare to let out a fart. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 375. Chapter 375. The so-called gossip. Mr. Zhou was angry and resentful towards him. Now after hearing his words, she couldn't bear it anymore. Okay. Stop talking. Yang Lao-san was afraid that Zhou and Yang Lao would break up, so he quickly shouted to stop, but in his heart he agreed with Zhou's words. Second brother, you'd better stop making these willful requests. There are still houses and fields in the countryside. It is better to go back and live a peaceful life than anything else. If you continue to grind away the last bit of father-son bond, you will have no place to cry. Yang Lao felt desolate in his heart. Neither of the two children said a word to him or looked at him yesterday. Is there still a father-son relationship between them? It's not that he doesn't want to save Dia, but even if he commits suicide, Bai Laokai will not let Dia go. After all, that madman has promised to kill their whole family. If he dies, it will only satisfy Bai Laokai. Dia still has, if it's not the same danger, why doesn't anyone think about it from his perspective? Yang Lao-san saw that Yang Lao remained silent and frowned impatiently to urge. After persuading and pushing, Yang Lao was allowed to get on the carriage. Yang Dia looked at the carriage going away, her red and swollen eyes falling into tears again. Zhang Ning advised, pick yourself up, you always have to look forward to life. During this period, you will live in Ziwan first. When the yard in Xinghua village is repaired, you can move there again. Anyway, Auntie's place is not bad for you, a few bites to eat. Yang Dia burst into tears and smiled, thank you, Auntie, for taking me in. Sun Yan on the side continued, it was Arya who helped me here before. If you are willing, you can take over Arya's work and earn some money every month. Yang Dia expressed her gratitude again. Old man Yang took Yang Lao-san to the workshop as soon as he returned to the village, not wanting to talk to Yang Lao-er at all. Yang Lao-er looked at Li. Ms. Li said tiredly to Mr. Zhou, let's go back and have a rest first. I'm tired. Zhou hurriedly responded. Yang Lao-er opened his mouth, feeling very depressed. Old man Yang and his son went all the way to the workshop where shell ash is fired, and talked to Fang Muzhu and the others about the city. Muxi and Arya's family have stayed there and will not come back. If you three are willing, you can follow the carriage. The three brothers were overjoyed and stood up without thinking, saying, we are willing. They would object to such a good thing only if they are out of their minds. Old man Yang laughed and said, if you agree, then go back and clean up. You can rent the land at home to the villagers, or you can ask people from the next village to do it. You can look at the arrangement. If you are not sure, the old man can help you try to find. Thank you, Grandpa. After discussion, the three Fang brothers decided to leave all the family affairs to old man Yang. They went back and simply packed up their things before following the carriage out of the village. Yang Lao-er looked at the carriage going away, filled with envy in his heart. If he had never had a falling out with his sister-in-law because of Qian, and had not hurt the hearts of his parents and three children because of Bai Yuniang, would he be able to be like other people now? Living with the same hope? No one cares about Yang Lao-er's thoughts. This side of Fukan. The day Yang Arya returned home from her wedding. Liang Xiaoqian specifically asked for leave from the school, went to Mrs. Zhou's snack shop and bought a lot of food. In addition, Yuan prepared a homecoming gift for the young couple, and he and Yang Arya returned home happily. Zhang Ning and Yang Dia were all waiting at Dongli Villa. When they saw the young couple coming arm in arm like each other, everyone was happy for Yang Arya. As soon as Yang Arya sat down, he noticed something was wrong with Yang Dia. Sister, why are you dressed so plainly today, without even a hairpin on your head? Had it not been for the deep love between sisters, Yang Arya would have doubted Yang Dia came here to cause trouble for her today. Yang Dia looked pale and lowered her eyes, but stopped talking. Originally, she didn't plan to show up. After all, she was still observing her filial piety, but if she didn't show up today, Arya would be overly worried, and I'm afraid it wouldn't be easy to fool her. Now I don't know how to explain this. Zhang Ning changed the subject and asked Liang Xiaoqian, now that you have moved out, do you need Arya to go to the old house every day to greet your parents? Liang Xiaoqian shook his head repeatedly, don't worry, mother-in-law. My father is very busy on weekdays and wishes we could stay in another courtyard. My mother-in-law likes to go out and socialize the most. She shows off her daughter-in-law to everyone. She can't even stay at home, let alone let Arya go and say hello. Yang Arya couldn't help but curl up her lips when she thought of what her mother-in-law had done in the past few days. No one mentioned Yang Dia's dressing up again, and the homecoming banquet was still enjoyed by both guests and hosts. Yang Arya took Yang Dia to the backyard, and the smile on her face suddenly disappeared. Sister, is something wrong? Yang Dia met Yang Arya's burning eyes, her eyes filled with water again. She didn't turn her head and didn't answer. Yang Arya's heart sank. If you don't tell me, I'll ask my mother-in-law. She will definitely not hide it from me. Don't go. Yang Dia grabbed Yang Arya's wrist and sobbed, originally I didn't want you to know. After all, you are newly married, and you have already been adopted by your eldest uncle, so I only gave it to you. Tiandu, but I feel really uncomfortable. You must know, I just said it, it's a Niang. She's back. Before Yang Arya could react, he heard Yang Dia cry, she died to save me. Weevu. Yang Arya was stunned for a moment, hugging Yang Dia who was crying bitterly, and couldn't recover for a long time. Yang Dia cried a lot and felt much better. She said, "Since you know, go and offer her some incense. She came specially to see you get married before she died." These words made Yang Arya unable to hold back her tears. "Sister, do you still hate her?" Yang Dia's crying stopped for a long time, and then she shook her head vigorously. Liang Xiaoqian never expected that such a big thing would happen on their big day. He felt very sorry for Yang Arya. After sending her back to another hospital, he stayed with her for the night and listened to Yang Arya talk about many things about the Qian family when they were young. Things that are still happening. On the second day, Liang Xiaoqian went to school with dark eyes. Yang Sizhuang was studying hard, and was shocked to see him like this. "Brother-in-law, what are you doing?" Excessive indulgence. Gong Haining came up, shook his head and sighed, and advised with sincerity, "Brother Liang, even though the joy of the boudoir makes people ecstasy, you and I are both people seeking official positions, so we can't indulge in beauty." Hua Yongnian coughed twice and nodded repeatedly. "Brother Haining is right, Xiaoqian should listen to more opinions from people who have experienced this." Sun Yuashan was speechless and shook his head with Yang Sizhuang. "Don't listen to their nonsense, concentrate on your studies, and don't ask too much about your sister and your brother-in-law." Liang Shaoqian's face darkened and he became furious. "How can you be so dirty? I am innocent. Forget it. I originally had some gossip about Qiu Wei to share with you, but now I don't want to talk about it anymore." Liang Xiaoqian sat down proudly. Gong Haining and the others looked at each other, came over one after another, and asked in unison, "What's the news?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 376. Chapter 376. The pattern is opened. Liang Xiaoqian cleared his throat and glanced at the classmates on both sides. Just when he was about to give up, Gong Haining directly threw out a silver coin and said, "Brother Liang has a lot, please speak up." Everyone gave Gong Haining a thumbs up and stared at Liang Xiaoqian. "Humph. Am I that kind of Philistine person?" Liang Xiaoqian curled his lips and put away the money. He was secretly happy. With this money, he could buy more rouge and gouache for Shui Yan, and even his pen, ink, paper and inkstone were all there. Yang Sizhuang looked at this scene, as if he saw his third brother. His eyes widened, but he heard Liang Xiaoqian say quietly, "The imperial examination is going to be reformed." What? One stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and all the scholars who were still studying hard rushed towards Liang Xiaoqian. Some nerds who didn't know why also put down their books and gradually came closer. Sun Yuashan looked up at Liang Xiaoqian solemnly. "Xiaoqian, where did you get this news? Is it true? This is a serious matter, so don't talk nonsense." Liang Xiaoqian looked around mysteriously, patted his chest proudly and vowed, "My father is the head of the construction department of the government office. Now he is in charge of protecting the city wall in the east of the city. He has participated in many important decisions made by the prefect. The prefect also said this, and I think there will be confirmation next year." Everyone looked at each other and felt inexplicably relieved. Now that autumn is coming, if the system is restructured at this time, everyone will be caught off guard. Starting next year, as long as they take the exam well this time, they will still have a chance. Nearly everyone had the same idea. For a moment, everyone surrounding Liang Xiaoqian dispersed and continued to sit in their seats and study hard. Liang Xiaoqian was a little puzzled. Aren't they curious about him? Hua Yongnian laughed and shook his head. "Brother Liang, autumn is just around the corner, how can anyone be curious? Even if you are really curious, you have to wait until autumn is over. Knowing too much can easily mess up your mind. The exam is all about talent and mentality, both of which are indispensable. Knowing too much at this time is not good for everyone. Liang Xiaoqian sat down in confusion. Seeing that everyone around him was working hard, he also followed suit. In a blink of an eye, it's the day of autumn. Gongyuan is as lively as ever. Zhang Ning personally sent Yang Sizhuang in and warned him in every possible way. However, after several exams, Yang Sizhuang still couldn't hold on and was carried out in the last one. Zhang Ning almost fainted from the fright. Fortunately, Zhou Mian made preparations in advance and even invited a doctor to treat him on the spot. Finally, he was safe. When Yang Sizhuang opened his eyes, he found that he was already at home. The clothes on his body were all new and there was no smell. It seemed that his servants had packed them for him when he was unconscious. Zhang Ning came over after hearing the news, feeling extremely distressed. Why do you think you can do it so well? When you were carried out yesterday, my mother-in-law was almost frightened to death. Thinking of the chaotic scene yesterday, Zhang Ning still felt his head buzzing. Fortunately, Mr. Li and the others were gone. If the old couple knew that their grandson had fainted during the exam, the sky would collapse. Yang Sizhuang felt extremely guilty. He stood up and apologized. Auntie, I was wrong. I shouldn't have messed up the rules because of the imperial examination reform. I'm sorry. He was inexplicably flustered, and he was not good at talking to others, so he could only think about it silently. In the end, he could only fight like everyone else. In the end, his mentality was not good enough. Reforming the imperial examination system? Who did you listen to? Zhang Ning was a little surprised. Some news from the imperial court must not have spread yet. Yang Sizhuang smiled bitterly. Mom, there is no airtight wall in this world. I won't hide it from you. It was the eldest brother-in-law who told us that his father is the head of the construction department of the government. He is often around the prefect and knows a lot information. Zhang Ning was not surprised at all. This time Yang Sizhuang was surprised. Auntie, you also know. Zhang Ning nodded slightly. It's a long story. If you want to dig deeper, this matter is closely related to what happened in Kuzhu Prefecture in the past 2 years, but it doesn't have much to do with you. Please let me clear up my doubts. Yang Sizhuang straightened his body. Zhang Ning sighed softly and said helplessly, Kuzhu Prefecture needs to build a city wall, and the organs below the Dragon King Temple need to be destroyed. The court needs a large number of talents who know how to create astronomy and geography. You are also a scholar yourself. You should know that the court now mainly selects talents. No matter what the exam is, the talents selected in this way cannot meet the needs of the imperial court, so starting from next year, the imperial court will add corresponding talent selection, and if they pass the exam, they will also receive corresponding honors, just like the normal imperial examination. Yang Sizhuang was shocked, and the situation was suddenly opened up. Anyang, if the system is restructured like this, wouldn't it mean that we have to set up additional examination questions and arrange examination rooms? Zhang Ning shook his head. It's just that starting next year, there will be additional county exams, government exams, hospital exams, and township exams. From now on, they will be together with the ordinary imperial exams. Everyone can take the exam, but those without merit must start from the county exam. But those who have passed the college exam can directly take the provincial exam. If you can do these questions, do it. If you can't do it, do the 4 books and 5 classics. Anyway, yes, it gives scholars who are determined to become officials one more choice. Yang Sizhuang was always smart, and he understood it in just one moment. No wonder the eldest brother-in-law is so happy. He comes from a construction family. He may not be as good as others in the 4 books and 5 classics, but when it comes to construction, it is not difficult. It's just that my son doesn't understand why there is such a big fanfare to recruit talents just because of the affairs in Kuzhu Prefecture. That's right, your eldest brother-in-law is a lucky man. Zhang Ning nodded with a smile, with a little sigh on his face. As for why the imperial court wanted to mobilize so many troops, I don't know. I am not in the capital now, and many news still come from G. I heard it from the adults. She is a woman. Although she has been favored by the emperor and given a knighthood, she has no real power. Too much interference in government affairs will definitely cause dissatisfaction among many people and will not be beneficial to her. Therefore, she has always maintained a relationship with Ji Wei and helped each other. Wei would also reciprocate the favor and tell her many of the court's developments. Hearing this, Yang Sizhuang became more and more eager to get ahead. Auntie, I will work hard. Zhang Ning smiled and touched his head. Now that the opportunity is in front of you, you can take good care of yourself. If you want to try again next year, you can. At worst, she would have to pay more attention and give her child some astronomy and geography knowledge. Yang Sizhuang only hesitated for a moment before shaking his head decisively. Auntie, that's not my original intention. I'd better study hard, keep in shape, and then quit in 3 years. It's the second brother. In the past, the second brother was very resistant to studying. He just said that seeing those things would give him a headache. Now there is an opportunity in front of him, so he can give it a try. There is also the fact that before Fugui, he did not dare to think about studying because of his biological mother. Now that he knows that his biological mother is not a slave, it will not be any hindrance to him. Before, he had been doing woodwork with his grandfather, and now he is with him. The second brother is doing masonry work next to him, so he has a lot more experience than others, and he knows the words that need to be recognized, so he might actually have a chance. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 377. Chapter 377. What if I don't force you? Zhang Ning was a little shocked. She didn't think about it when she received the news. She didn't expect that her youngest son could think so much in such a short period of time. Naturally, if a family wants to prosper, it cannot be blamed on one person. It is really good if everyone is good. If Yang Erden and Yang Fugui can compete and come back with fame, it will definitely be the icing on the cake for the Guang'an marquis. In the future, others when mentioning Guang'an Haofu, one will not only remember that their family is all mud-legged. This will not prevent them from doing what they like, and they can achieve multiple things with one stone. At that moment, she felt a little moved. It's not impossible to do this, but you have to convince your second brother and Fugui. If they really agree. Anyang shamelessly went to the Liang family and asked Mr. Liang to come forward and give them some advice. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this was the right path. First of all, both children were well educated. Needless to say, Yang Erden, although he didn't like to study, he had participated in many house constructions and run workshops and inns in recent years. He was needed in many places. Write, draw, and practice the calligraphy. Yang Fugui's calligraphy is not good, but there will definitely be many capable folk people in the partial imperial examination selection, and not everyone can write well. I'm afraid many people can't read a single Chinese character and are just making up for it temporarily. This kind of writing requirements are definitely not high. Find a teacher to teach Yang Fugui for a few months and it should be effective. The mother and son looked at each other and immediately packed up and sent people to the east of the city to call Yang Erden and Yang Fugui back. Yang Erden and Yang Fugui came back yesterday because they were taken out of Yang Sizhuang examination room because they were comatose. Now they were called back. They thought something had happened at home and were so anxious that when they returned home in a hurry, they saw Yang Si. Zhuang sat comfortably on the chair, and Zhang Ning sat upright and smiled at them. The smile was a bit unclear to people. The two of them were a little panicked and quickly looked at Yang Sizhuang, who was sitting at the bottom. "Fourth brother, are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere?" Yang Erden asked with a worried look on his face. Yang Sizhuang hurriedly stood up and bowed. "Second brother, I'm fine. It's just that I'm weak and try to be strong, which embarrasses our family." "What nonsense are you talking about? You are still young, and you can participate in Kaiwei. That is to show our parents' pride. Don't think too much. If you can't pass this time, we will try harder next time. You are still young, don't worry." Yang Erdan sat down next to Yang Sizhuang and kept comforting him. Yang Fugui also sat down. Yang Sizhuang listened obediently, nodding from time to time without interrupting. Yang Erden's mouth was dry after talking, and he was very satisfied when he saw his brother accepting it readily. He picked up the tea on the table and drank it in one gulp. It felt good. Just when he was about to drink his second cup, Zhang Ning smiled at him with crooked eyebrows and said, "Erden Fugui, you see that the 4 villages have worked so hard, shouldn't you also work harder?" Yang Erden looked confused. He looked at Fugui, who was also confused, and said, "Auntie, we have been working very hard. We don't dare to relax in the work of the brick kiln. If you don't believe me, ask Fugui." Yang Fugui nodded desperately. "Auntie, we are not lazy." "Who said you were lazy?" Zhang Ning looked at the two of them angrily, and did not follow them in circles, but said bluntly, "I told you to take part in the imperial examination." Clang, with a sound, the teacup in Yang Erden's hand fell to the ground and shattered. Niang, what's wrong with you? You want us to take part in the imperial examination?" Yang Erden's eyes widened in disbelief, thinking he was hallucinating. Yang Fugui was even more panicked. "Auntie, I can't even write well. I can't do it, I can't do it." Yang Sizhuang firmly grasped their hands. "Second brother, Fugui, I believe in you. You can definitely do it." Yang Erden was stunned for a moment, and suddenly wanted to cry when he realized it. "Auntie, Sizhuang, please spare us. We really can't do it. It doesn't matter if our family really can't produce scholars, there is still the next generation, right? I will work harder and give birth to more children, and one of them will succeed." "No prospects." Zhang Ning lost his temper, gave Yang Erden a hard look, and told them about the reform of the imperial examination. The government decree is expected to be sent to various state capitals before the spring festival. If we know it in advance, we can make some preparations in advance. The opportunity is right in front of you, you can't miss it, understand? Yang Erden and Yang Fugui couldn't react for a long time. Yang Fugui murmured, "Second cousin, am I not dreaming?" Yang Erden slapped him down, "Are you awake?" Yang Fugui covered his head in pain and nodded vigorously, "I'm awake, I'm not dreaming. In this case, I'll take the test." He clenched his fists fiercely, with an expression as if he was looking forward to death. Yang Erden was shocked. "Have you really decided?" Yang Fugui nodded heavily. Yang Sizhuang had a childish and pleased expression on his face. "Second brother, the rich and powerful have said so. If you don't work hard, I will look down on you." Yang Erden was very depressed, but even Yang Fugui, who was so much weaker than him, agreed. If he didn't agree, he would be too cowardly, and he would not be able to hold his head high among his brothers in the future. He sighed silently and nodded, "Then I'll give it a try." Zhang Ning and Yang Sizhuang exchanged glances, looking like their treacherous plot had succeeded. Since the two of them want to study hard, they can no longer take care of the brick kiln. Fortunately, the 4 brothers of the Fang family have already taken charge and are trusted by the Yang family. Yang Erden and Yang Fugui feel relieved to leave the work to them. Sun Yan knew the news and personally led people to clean up a quiet little courtyard for Yang Erden to study. Yang Xiao even stood up and said to the two of them, "From now on, I will watch you study. If you have any words you don't understand, you can ask me. Even though she is young, because she can only write, draw, dance, write, ink, play the piano, and embroider every day, she is very good at learning these things. Her calligraphy can even compete with Yang Sizhuang. Zhang Ning was very satisfied and said to Yang Xiao, if your second brother and Fugui can both come back with honors, you will be a great contributor to our family. Just say whatever you want. Thank you so much, Aniyang. Yang Xiao was so happy that she had to focus on these two people just because of this. After arrangements were made, Zhang Ning immediately went to Liang's house to visit Liang Hongchang. When Yuan received the invitation from Guang'an Marquis, she was so surprised that she almost flew into the air. She was also a little uneasy, fearing that the reception would not be adequate, so she immediately sent people to Biwen to find Yang area. Suyan, what's the important thing that your mother has to do when she comes to our house tomorrow? Yuan asked around, worried that Zhang Ning was coming to investigate. Although the possibility was slim, she still didn't worry. Yang area was a little confused. My mother-in-law is coming? Why didn't I know? You don't know, Yuan frowned slightly, her mind was spinning, and she couldn't figure it out. The next day, everyone in the Liang family was waiting for Zhang Ning at home. Zhang Ning came to the door and saw this fight, and couldn't help but feel funny. My father-in-law and my mother-in-law don't have to be so polite. I came here today just to sit down, and I have something to discuss with my father-in-law. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 378. Chapter 378, Release of the Ranking in Autumn. Liang Hongchang sat upright and said, Master Marquis, please speak. Although Zhang Ning always calls him his father-in-law, he dare not really call him his mother-in-law. Zhang Ning paused and said, my father-in-law also knows about the reform of the imperial examination, right? Liang Hongchang nodded, I've heard a little bit. Zhang Ning smiled slightly, what a coincidence. Me too. My in-laws know that my second son and nephew know something about construction. I want them to try it out next year, but they lack a powerful husband to guide them. I think of my in-laws right now. Liang Hongchang understood immediately and immediately nodded and said, thanks to Lord Marquis for being considerate. If the children are willing, just let them come over. I have made a reservation and usually stay at home. Thank you so much, father-in-law. Zhang Ning was overjoyed and talked with them some more before leaving. The mother-in-law presented the gifts brought by Zhang Ning. Yuan and Yang area laughed and said, your mother is too polite to come here and bring so many things. Auntie, take a look at what we have. Yang area looked happy and felt that her waist had become much straighter in her husband's house. Because Zhang Ning asked for help from others, the gifts he prepared this time were all very expensive, including fine tea, wine, the 4 treasures of the study, expensive snacks, ingredients, and homemade shower gel. Yuan was very satisfied with everything, but she had never seen shower gel before and was very curious. Yang area stepped forward and explained carefully, Auntie, this peach blossom white porcelain jar is specially used for bathing. It is very similar to fragrance soap, but it smells better and can wash cleaner than fragrance soap. Apricot blossom white porcelain is specially used for bathing. The porcelain one is for hair washing, and contains medicated powder to nourish your hair. Your scalp will feel comfortable after washing it. And this box contains tooth powder. Use this brush to brush carefully for a period of time. Your teeth will become white and your mouth will smell fragrant. So magical. Yuan's attention was immediately attracted by these things, and she couldn't wait to try them right away. Liang Xiaoqian and Liang Hongchang, the father and son, also wanted to see the efficacy of tooth powder after hearing this. After all, they were often outside and had to open their mouths when talking and doing things. They needed clean white teeth and fresh breath. Yang area saw that they were eager to try, and immediately asked his servants to boil hot water. The Liang family had a lot of fun trying out various shower gels. Zhang also returned to Dongli Villa as soon as possible and called Yang Erden and Yang Fugui, "From tomorrow on, you will go to the Liang family every evening." Now the Liang family's old house only has two owners, Mr. Liang and Mrs. Liang. "I can clean up 2 guest rooms for you to stay temporarily. Of course, I will reciprocate the favor and I will send some things to the Liang family from time to time. You don't have to worry about these, just study hard." The two of them were so big-headed that they went to the Liang family with pen, ink, paper, and inkstones. These 2 sets of pen, ink, paper, and inkstone cost several taels of silver, not just a few pennies. If they didn't learn a flower, they would feel ashamed to see their mother, brothers, and sisters at home, and they would die. Yuan's warm smile never disappeared when she saw the two of them. The mattresses prepared for them in the guest room were all brand new. Everyone had high hopes for them, and they couldn't help but try. Liang Hongchang led the two of them to the study. As soon as the two of them saluted, they were frightened by the bookshelves full of books and turned pale. Liang Hongchang casually took out a book and told them about the history of construction and the development of construction in Qi. The two of them were very nervous at first, but they didn't expect to get into the mood within a quarter of an hour. When they came to their senses, a period had passed. Time, and they still haven't finished it yet. The two of them were overjoyed. Yang Erden said, "Uncle Liang, this construction is much more interesting than the 4 books and 5 classics taught in the school." Liang Hongchang laughed loudly and thought deeply about it. "I don't like the 4 books and 5 classics either. Let me study it. I can sleep on it and learn construction. I can forget about food and sleep. It seems that you two are just like me and have some talents in this area. Work hard and maybe you can compete next year. These two are too weak and can only make up for the basics in a short period of time. If they want to make greater progress, they still have to look at their talents." "Thank you, sir," the two responded respectfully. From now on begins a day of forgetting sleep and food, working hard to make progress. Of course, no one made any noise about these things. Firstly, the reform of the imperial examination had not yet been officially ordered. Secondly, as Liang Hongchang said, the two of them had no foundation. If the matter became public knowledge, no one would succeed in the examination. Wouldn't it be embarrassing? Zhang Ning just arranged the matter and left it alone. The Kaiwei results came out, and Yang Sizhuang failed as expected. He was still young, so this result was expected by everyone. No one from Rongsha village even sent a message to ask, so everyone probably knew it. However, Promise Mountain actually made the list. The Su family was decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations. Madame Zhou was delivering wedding cakes from door to door in Xinghua village. She was so happy that many people rushed to the door to match Sun Yuashan. Mrs. Zhou is still not over the matter about the Fang family, and Sun Yuashan wants to take advantage of the victory to participate in the spring festival of the following year, so she has no intention of doing so. But there were too many people coming to the door, and some people even blocked the dim sum shop, which made Mrs. Zhou dare not go to the dim sum shop these days, so she could only leave everything to Alan. Her current situation is that she does not dare to return home and does not dare to start a business. She is in pain and happy at the same time. Zhang Ning looked at Mrs. Zhou who came to her door to complain, and joked, "Everyone is eager to welcome guests to the door every day, but it's better for you to hide so quickly." Ouch! Don't mention it. Mrs. Zhou drank several sips of water and felt a headache. In the past, the Zhang family was next door to my house, and I could go to the house to hide. Now that the Zhang family has moved to the city, I am the only one in Xinghua village. It's wrong to run anywhere. After thinking about it, I can only shamelessly hide here. At least those people don't dare to intrude on your territory. Sun Yan was heartbroken and funny at the same time. "Won't you just say no directly on behalf of my eldest brother?" "How can that be done, Madame Zhou retorted, your eldest brother is already a grown man. Although he doesn't have this intention now, neither do I. But we have to take our time and look at each other, right? It's okay to offend people by saying something too harshly. Besides, I also thought that if I meet a good girl again, I can't miss it. His heart ached when he thought of Fang Xiru and Mrs. Zhou, what a good girl. Pity. Sun Yian saw that Mrs. Zhou was looking wrong and immediately changed the subject, you can come as you please. I can't control you anyway, but since the eldest brother has passed the autumn period, our family can consider buying some more fields. There is no need to pay taxes anyway, and you can get a lot of food by farming for others, which is enough for your mother's family. Speaking of buying land, Mrs. Zhou suddenly became more serious, you have touched my heart. Madame Zhou looked at Zhang Ning and said, Ning, I have saved some money now, and I have prepared the money for Ashan to go to Beijing to take the exam. The rest I want to buy 100 acres of land, preferably all connected. Make a village. She was very envious of the Yang family's Dongli villa, which had everything they needed. The income from the village alone was enough to support everyone every year, and there was still a surplus. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 379. Chapter 379, Not Taking Advantage of the Situation. Zhang Ning nodded, I definitely want to buy the land. If you don't buy the land, some people in Xinghua village may be thinking about your family. How do you say this? Mr. Zhou was very puzzled. Zhang Ning gave her a detailed analysis, you have lived in Xinghua village for a few years, so you should know the situation there. Everyone's life is not easy. It would be good if there were less taxes. I'm afraid they will think of hanging up the fields. In the name of Nuashan, we are all fellow villagers anyway, and your family will never be too open to collect too much food. In this way, they can save more food. Aren't they afraid that I will turn my back on my fault in the future? Mrs. Zhou frowned. Zhang Ning laughed dumbly, what are you afraid of? Since you want to put the fields under Nuashan's name, you must establish another document. Unless Nuashan doesn't want fame and career, he will definitely not be able to do that kind of thing, right? Mrs. Zhou was upset, if that's the case, I really have to buy the land as soon as possible. According to the regulations of the state of Qi, a person can be exempted from taxes on 100 acres. She had to get the 100 acres together as soon as possible. Sun Yian muttered, Auntie, let Butler Zhu inquire about this matter. Last year, the Earth Dragon turned over, and many wealthy families in the south of the city were frightened. Those who could afford it all moved away with their families or went to relatives. There seems to be some in the suburbs. Several houses are for sale. Zhang Ning immediately called Butler Zhu and asked him to deal with it. With Zhang Ning's status, it only took half a day to buy the 100-acre village that Mrs. Zhou wanted, and spent 200 taels. The original owner of Zhuangzi owned a cloth village, and the sea water poured in. Although his house was fine, all the materials in the warehouse were soaked in water and could no longer be used. The loss was huge, and the village had to be sold for turnover. In addition to the fields, there is a small barren hill on the village, where many mulberry trees are planted, a silkworm house for raising silkworms and a small house with green bricks and tiles. This is not so big compared to the house in Dongli Villa. If compared with the small courtyard in Xinghua village, the house in Zhuangzi is definitely bigger. Mrs. Zhou went to see it herself and was very satisfied. Sun Yian was also happy and said, Auntie, there are no familiar people in Xinghua village now. Why don't you move to this village? Firstly, it will be quiet and no one will come to bother you all the time. Secondly, This house is bigger than Xinghua village, it's comfortable to live here. It's faster to get into the city from here. Ms. Zhou had no friendship with the villagers in Xinghua village, and she had no nostalgia for the place. As soon as the promise was made, she hesitated and agreed. Sun Yan immediately asked someone to come over to clean up the house, and took Ms. Zhou back to Xinghua village to pack her luggage. The mother and daughter had just returned to the village and someone came to their door within a quarter of an hour. "Yo, Madam Su, congratulations." Ms. Zhou went out to take a look and found that the person coming was the famous big-mouthed Ma family in the village. She subconsciously frowned and said, "Thank you." When Ma saw Sun Yan and some servants, his eyes flickered, full of inquiry. Ms. Zhou was not happy and asked, "Is something wrong?" Ma she looked away, sneered twice, and said, "Seeing how lively you guys are, come over and have a look. I wanted to talk to you this morning, but I didn't expect you weren't here." Ms. Zhou thought of what Zhang Ning said, her heart skipped a beat. She looked away, smiled unnaturally, and said proactively, "I went to my daughter-in-law's house to sit and buy a farm by the way." "What? The farm?" Ms. Ma's eyes widened, and she lost all thoughts of the gossip. "How many acres of farm have you bought?" Her tone was very urgent. Yesterday, her man mentioned to her that he would put the farm at home to she didn't agree to the matter in Sun Yuashan's name at first. Her man kept talking, but she finally figured it out after talking about it all night. She originally planned to come over this morning to talk about it, but she didn't expect that the Su family had bought the land in advance. Ms. Zhou knew what Ma wanted to do when she saw her look like this. She felt a little depressed, but she didn't hide it. "I bought 100 acres. So much?" Ms. Ma was greatly surprised, and more importantly she didn't understand. If the Su family could buy 100 acres of land in one go, why would they live in this small village like them? "Aren't you afraid that we will take over the land? Just use your name to fool us." Ma's face was filled with doubts, and his face dropped. Sun Yan came out from behind Ms. Zhou, glanced at Mr. Ma, lowered her eyes and said, "Mom, your luggage is packed. You can see if there are any gaps. If not, we can leave." "Leave? You want to move away?" Ma's voice suddenly became sharper. Sun Yan signaled Ms. Zhou to enter the house, stepped forward and asked unhurriedly, "Is there any problem?" Seeing that Sun Yan was well dressed and accompanied by a serving maid, Ms. Ma did not dare to be too presumptuous and tempered a bit. "I just want to ask about that field." "Field? What kind of field?" "Our family has no relatives in Xinghua village, and we have a land dispute with your family," Sun Yan asked, pretending to be stupid. Ma was dumbfounded, her face darkened, and she gave a dry smile. "Why are there disputes? They are all from the same village. Everyone looks down but doesn't look up to see each other. Isn't it because Ms. Su's son has become a civil servant? We just want to ask Tian, what kind of regulations are there in Su Juran's name? How much grain does the Su family harvest every year?" She didn't like talking to Sun Yan, and always felt that Sun Yan was not easy to get along with, so she simply stated her purpose directly. Sun Yan sneered twice and took time to look at her. "When will our family harvest the fields in the village?" "What? You won't accept it?" "Why?" Ma was anxious. Some villagers who came looking for it after hearing the news happened to hear this, and they all came forward and said angrily, "This is good for everyone, why don't you accept it? Is it possible that the Su family looks down on us villagers now that they have become a member of the imperial family?" "Humph, I told you a long time ago that people don't take us villagers seriously, but you still don't believe me." The villagers all made strange accusations against the Su family. Madame Zhou almost fainted after hearing this in the room. She cried with her maid, "We didn't get any help from them in the village. Nuashan passed the exam and even sent wedding cakes to the villagers. We owe them." The mother-in-law consoled her, "Madam, this is how people in the world are. They have not been able to get any benefits, so they must be dissatisfied. Anyway, we don't live in this village anymore. It's okay. Sun Yian listened silently to everyone's accusations, with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Have you said enough? It's my turn to say enough. My eldest brother's success in the examination seems to have nothing to do with you, right? You didn't pay for it. Secondly, you have no contribution, and thirdly, you are not related to our family in any way. How can you be so brave and allow our family to take over your fields? Since my eldest brother is a Juran and can be exempted from certain taxes, why don't we buy our own land instead of taking it from other people's families? What's the point? How? Our family owes you. Sun Yian's rhetorical questions left the villagers speechless. Ma murmured dissatisfiedly, it's not that we don't want to help, it's just that our space is not used. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 380. Chapter 380 Return of Yang Santi. Sun Yian chuckled, last year, Delong Fangkang Xinghua village was flooded, couldn't you help? Who helped? Oh. You must say that you are too busy to take care of yourself and can't help, right? What else can you say? Some villagers with thin skin and high self-esteem have turned around and left. There are still some shameless people who resent the Su family for not allowing them to stay in the fields. They are cursing at the door and summoning other families. Their posture is clearly to isolate the Su family. Sun Yian knew that Xinghua village was in a special situation. Most of the people here were outsiders, and they all cared about their own business. Everyone didn't have a deep sense of belonging to the village. Their relationships were colder and their behavior was more unscrupulous than in other villages. She silently watched their little actions without saying a word. After a long time, the maid and her mother-in-law helped Mrs. Zhou out with something. Second young madam, everything is packed. Sun Yian nodded slightly, let's go. Lock the house and close the doors and windows tightly. After taking care of the matter, the group got into the carriage and left in style. The villagers of Xinghua village were angry and anxious, but there was nothing they could do against the Su family. They discussed that when they saw the Su family in the future, they would stumble upon them and do some tricks to disgust them and isolate the Su family. As a result, the Su family was not seen returning to the village for several days. Those who came to Sun Yuashan to seek matchmaking were all in vain. Only then did everyone realize that something was wrong. While the people in the village were talking a lot, the three Fangmuzhu brothers took their luggage and opened the door of the Su family courtyard. Ma was the first to rush over and saw three strong men entering the Su family, not even a woman. She was a little frightened and hurried to inform others. Immediately, a villager came to the door angrily and scolded, "Who are you? What are you doing in Suju's house?" The three Fang brothers all put down what they were doing and walked out of the door with cold expressions. That posture frightened the villagers into retreating. "We bought this yard, is there any problem?" Fang Muzhu glanced at the villagers in front of him coldly. "Everyone is a bully and is afraid of the strong, so scared that the birds scatter in flocks." Fang Muchuan sneered twice, "How dare you still want to take advantage of the Su family? It's just because they come from out of town. Orphans and widowed mothers are easy to bully. We are not easy to mess with." Fang Muzhu nodded slightly, took the lead into the yard, closed the door, and then a smile appeared on his face. "Let's go. Pack up. This will be our home from now on." The three brothers had been living in a brick kiln since they came to Fukan. They had no plans to build a yard in Fukan. Unexpectedly, young Master Yang suddenly came to them that day and handed over the land deed of the yard to them without asking for a single coin. They originally refused, but they didn't accept it until second young Master Yang told them about the situation here. From now on, this yard will be theirs. In exchange, they will help the Su family guard the fields in Xinghua village. This is not a difficult problem for the three brothers at all. As long as they let out word that the field has been bought by them, no one will dare to have bad intentions. The yard of the fourth family next door is almost finished, and the brothers can still be together, so they have no regrets. In the blink of an eye, Kuzhu Prefecture ushered in the first snow of winter this year. The white roof tiles and walls stopped. News came from the Liang family that Yang area was pregnant. Counting the days, it should be just after the house. I got pregnant right away, but the couple lived alone and didn't understand many things, so it took them a long time to find out. When Yang area is pregnant, Yuan is the happiest person. She was very grateful to the Marquis of Guang'an, but didn't know how to repay her, so she directed all her enthusiasm towards Yang Erden and Yang Fugui. In the middle of the winter, she cooked food for them in various ways and made them fat. Big circle. Zhang Ning sighed. Yuan would definitely be a good hand in raising pigs. With Yuan's careful care, Zhang Ning didn't worry at all, because Sun Yan was also pregnant, so she focused more on her daughter-in-law. In the 12th lunar month, several carts of New Year's gifts were sent from the capital, as well as letters from Yang Datu. Zhang Ning opened it and looked at it, smiling from ear to ear. Anayang, why are you so happy about this happy event? Yang Santi strode into the door wearing a snow-covered look. Zhang Ning was so happy that he put the letter on the table and quickly stepped forward to pull him to take a closer look. He's taller. He's lost weight. You must have suffered a lot along the way. Yang Santi shook his head, held Zhang Ning's hand with his backhand, and helped her to the seat. Zhang Ning was surprised to find that his hand was so strong, and he was shocked. What have you experienced along the way? Why do I feel that you have changed so much? Yang Santi laughed dumbly. What's the matter? Auntie, I'll come back and talk to you after I go back and wash up. Zhang Ning was interrupted by him and stopped mentioning Yang Santi's changes. When he finished packing and came over, Zhang Ning also regained his composure. Yang Santi opened the few boxes he had brought back and said with great interest, Auntie, these are the high-quality jade I got from the Hassa tribe outside the pass, as well as some precious and rare medicinal materials, all of which are dedicated to you. Zhang Ning stepped forward to touch the jade, and the explanation of the jade immediately appeared in the God of Cooking system. High-quality Hishan jade is the beauty of the stone. It is sweet in taste and non-toxic. It is the most abundant substance for the human body to store vitality. Sucking the jade, with the help of saliva and its synergistic effect, it can produce body fluids and relieve pain. It can relieve thirst, remove heat in the stomach, soothe the rest of the body, nourish the heart and lungs, moisten the voice and throat, and nourish the hair. It can be used as a food dish. These are Hishan jade? Have you gone to Xinjiang? Zhang Ning was shocked. She knew that her son was thinking about traveling far away, but she didn't expect that he would run so far. Xinjiang, Yang Santi looked confused. My son left Kuzhu Prefecture, first arrived at Tongchang Prefecture, then entered the south of the Yangtze River, passed Zhuzhou Prefecture, Quifeng Prefecture, Lonqi Prefecture, to the Beishi Mountains in the northwest, passed through Zhejiangguan, and reached the desert. The Yidong Hassa tribe has never been to the so-called Xinjiang. Zhang Ning was stunned for a few seconds and quickly made up for it, slip of the tongue. I have never been to the northwest. How do I know those places? But how can you leave the customs? Can His Highness Prince Ding allow it? Yang Santi smiled and was very proud, because my son is so lucky. In the past, there were constant wars in the northwest, and there were always bandits from outside the border. Since King Ding led his army to attack the outside world and severely frightened the outside forces, they took the initiative to negotiate peace with us and propose foreign trade. Of course, we are a victorious country, and the transaction is led by us. The location was chosen to be Jinggu City, where the Hassa tribe is located. Our troops are stationed there, so it is very safe. Anayang, you don't know, the scenery outside the pass is so wonderful. The sunset in the desert, the camel bells and sheep, the wooden flute and tambourine, the enthusiastic tribal men and women, singing and dancing, everything is different from us. Also, the camel milk, goat milk, mare's milk, and beef and mutton they eat are all different from us. It's a pity that those things are not the same as ours. Can't bring it back. Yang Santi looked regretful, and then he hurriedly asked someone to bring a box over. There are some spices from abroad, let me see if I like them. Tongchang Prefecture, then entered the south of the Yangtze River, past Zhuzhou Prefecture, Quifeng Prefecture, Lonqi Prefecture, to the Beishi Mountains in the northwest, past Zijingguan, and reached the Hassa tribe east of the desert. They have not been to the so-called Xinjiang.